Like we
Mhm.
wanted to kind of hone in on the identity of the band and really try to make an album that sounded like, well, I couldn't hear any other band make an album like this. This is Plain White Tees.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Dude, hell yeah.
Awesome. Actually, we've had you on our podcast. My brother-in-law actually interviewed you last time. He's in a band called the Eiffels, and he's played with you guys a few times.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm excited that I get to chat with you. I've had Tim on as well for his other project.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, had a couple of members of the band, so it's cool
Lots
to
of
actually.
lots of Plain White Tees love. Thank you.
Yes, of course. So I'd love to get your story. I'm really excited to chat with you. And I love the new album. I had a chance to hear it.
Oh, kick ass. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. A few of my favorite songs on the album you haven't even put out yet, so it's exciting.
That's a good thing. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny because I feel you on that. There's a few songs that I would have probably went with. Like we kind of for the most part, I don't know, are we going already, by the way?
Yeah, we just roll it.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, we were had a really great time making this album, and it was it was like the perfect like we got along really well with like the label and our A&R guy and everything. It was a great process, and we kind of let them, for the most part, we were like, we love all of our songs, so
Right.
they were kind of, they said, oh, what about this for a single? And we're like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But if it was strictly up to me, I probably would have went with a couple different ones. But again, it's like I didn't, I love them all. So
Sure.
sometimes it's hard to be, objective as the artist. It's like, of course, I like others more than maybe the label thinks would be better singles. So it's like, okay, I trust you guys. But I'm
Right.
curious to think what songs you liked that weren't out as singles, because I wonder if they're the same ones that I would have went with.
Okay, so I like A Little Less Alone. I think that's a great song.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
and I'm looking at the track list now. We go back. The first song on the record is it starts off. It's so good. Young Tonight. I love that
Yeah,
song.
that's one of my top three of the whole album. And so that one wasn't a single, but the label, our A&R guy was like, but it's track one. So like everybody's gonna hear that song. It's like you don't really have to push it because it's like that's the one they're gonna hear when they
Here.
put the album on for sure. So
Yeah, I like
I think
a couple of the other ones that you haven't put out yet. The slower ones, like Love is a great song. Girl from Pasadena is a great song.
hell
Um,
yeah.
Slower ones, but I also really like Feeling More Like Myself. The like
Nice.
some like I love the like stuttered the
Yeah,
vocal.
dude.
I think that's so rad. I love when bands do that.
Hell yeah. Well, you've basically picked a few of my favorites. So yeah, I
What
think we're on the same page.
what would you pick as a single? Now I'm curious.
So I would have went with definitely Young Tonight and Love. I think are
Yeah.
two of the songs on the album that sound most like singles to me,
Yeah,
like I
100%.
feel
I
like
think
both
LOVE
of
for
those.
sure.
Love sounds like a straight up, like if you were to be like, oh, Plain White Tees, yeah, Hey There Delilah, 1 2 3 4 Love, it's like right in that same world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Young
And
Tonight and LOVE are
yeah, well,
yours.
Young Tonight, again, I can see maybe that's a little bit outside of our box, but that's why it's a fun opening track, to kind of
Mhm.
really hook people. But I'm okay with that one not being a single, but that's definitely one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the album is amazing.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I heard it. I was like, wow, like this is really good. So I was excited that
Dude,
I got a chance to hear it first, or not
appreciate
first,
that.
but before
Yeah.
we
I mean, kind
chatted
of
and
first.
everything.
Kind of. Yeah. A few people that we've sent it to, I mean, it's really cool, like kind of overwhelmingly, like super positive responses so far. Like and I don't think people are just like blowing smoke up our ass. I think it's like genuinely people are like, dude, this is freaking awesome. Like they really are loving it so far. So knock on wood that you guys are all right and
Well, I
not crazy.
no, I think yeah, it's definitely an incredible record. And I love the fact like right now with the kind of resurgence of pop punk and like that the
Hmm.
scene that you guys kind of came out of, and that's a scene that I grew up with and loved. It fits like it's definitely like obviously like a now version of what that is, and I think it's
Oh yeah.
rad. It sounds like a Plain White Tees album, but it also doesn't sound like you tried to recreate older album at all.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if can I talk about that for a second?
Of course, you can. We're going to talk about
So,
everything, anything you want to talk about.
well, I
It's
was just
about
gonna
you.
say that the fact that you said it sounds like a Plain White T's album, like that was kind of the intention of this album, and part of the reason why it was so perfect that we just didn't name it. It's kind of just leave it as a self-titled,
Self-titled.
because it's like we really tried to kind of focus in on, like, okay, what is it that makes Plain White Tees unique? Like, what is our thing? Like, because we always try to push ourselves and make every album a little bit different than the last and everything. So we kind of like looked back at the history of the band, and it's like, okay, what is it about Plain White Tees that makes us different, that sets us apart? And we really tried to kind of hone in on those, not like in a formulaic way, but just like kind of in the back of our minds, especially in the production and everything. It was like, yeah, we don't want to overproduce anything. We want to keep everything kind of stripped down, kind of raw, kind of rough around the edges. Make sure the lyrics are all very honest, very vulnerable. Those are just some of the things along the way that were like, that maybe made these songs make the album above other ones, because it was like, no, this feels more authentically Plain White Tees. Like, we
Mhm.
wanted to kind of hone in on the identity of the band and really try to make an album that sounded like, well, I couldn't hear any other band make an album like this. This is Plain White Tees, you know?
100%. That's it. Yeah, I think you guys have accomplished that 100%. Where
Hell yeah.
it's got faster songs and but it has that same vibe throughout the whole record. It's like, okay, this is, you have the slower ones, more that, Hey There Delilah's, but also like faster songs. And then that first one just really set the tone for the whole album. It's like, okay, this is really cool. Like just that
Hell yeah.
intro guitar riff. I'm like, this is dope.
I love that you love that song, dude, because that's, like I said, that makes me happy, because that's one of the ones I was really stoked about too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely sets up the album, and it's not just like, oh, I listened to the first song. I listened to the whole album like 3 times, and I was like, damn, like still going
Oh
back to
yeah.
that first one. I think that one's so good.
Hell yeah. Well, that's, it's important to have a good track one to make people want to push play on the album.
Sure, yeah, 100%. Well, rad. So I watched your other interview with my brother-in-law, and so I don't want to just totally do that same vibe, but I'm curious just to hear from you. Uh, you're from Chicago area. You talked about writing a song, your first song when you're in 8th grade, but prior to that, like, how did you get into music? Do you come from artistic household, musical household at all?
My mom played a little bit. Like, she had like a guitar laying around the house when I was a kid, and she'd have like her, like, 3 or 4 just go-to songs that she just kind of play once in a while. More like a hobby, right?
Mhm.
And my dad actually, this is a funny story. He's played the drums when he was like in high school and stuff, and he was in a band. But I have never, like, to this day, I mean, I've got a drum set in my house. I've got a studio in my freaking basement, and I've never seen my dad sit behind a drum set and actually play. Like,
Really?
supposedly he's like some awesome drummer from, like, when he was younger. But yeah, I've never witnessed this myself. But maybe the story of him being an awesome drummer like made me think like, oh yeah, cool. I got a little bit of music in my background or something. Maybe that gave me a little confidence to do it. Um, but yeah, so not super musical, but they played in the freaking 70s and stuff
Mhm.
in the 80s, and always like music in the house growing up. My mom would always be rocking like Pat Benatar, Michael Jackson and stuff.
Mhm.
And my dad was actually more of like a Scorpions, like, Halloween, kind of like a 80s metal kind of guy. So
Yeah,
I feel like I've got all that kind of floating around in my brain, inspiration wise. So yeah,
sure.
always loved music and always was around it, and just kind of knew I had like a little connection to it.
Cool. I know you did talk about you got a drum set in like 9th grade, right? Wasn't that kind of your
Yep.
first real, you said it was your first
Yeah.
instrument, but it sounded like you had a band, a talent, you played like a talent show or something before that, and you wrote a
So yeah,
song
I
before
did like
that.
I did a rap song at the 8th grade dance.
Oh, it's a
So it was
rap
like,
song.
yeah, it was literally like it was Heavy D and the Boys. There was like an instrumental track that I had, and me and my buddy Tom Sukup, we wrote like a rap song and we did it at the eighth grade talent show. Um, we just like hit play on the track on the tape and we're just like rap to it. And
Like
they
back and
liked it.
forth.
Yeah, exactly. It was
That's awesome.
like a yeah, tag team. Um, and they liked it so much, the class liked it that they had us do it again at the eighth grade dance at the end of the year. So that was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Um,
Just the one
but
song.
then
You guys just had the one song.
yeah, just so well, I feel like we might have had a couple more, but like, it was whatever. We didn't really develop anything, of course.
Sure.
But that led me, to think, okay, cool, I can write songs, I can do music or whatever. So then, yeah, freshman year is when, that's when like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all that alternative scene just really started blowing up. And so then as like a, high school kid, I was like, oh wait, this is way cooler. This is like, I can identify with these guys, they're dirty and they're cool and they're whatever, and so then I wanted to play drums, so I got a drum set. Yeah, maybe
And
because of all the legendary stories of my dad. I don't know,
that's what I was
but
going to ask you. So you got the drum set, but he never like sat down and was like, "Oh, cool! Like we got a kit. I'm going to show you
no,
a couple
I swear
moves."
I don't ever remember him freaking playing that thing. I'm telling you. But yeah, I luckily sat back there and I just started messing around and started, I would just put on records and just kind of fumble along and play along, and eventually I got pretty good after like a year or two of playing. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what were some of the? You said your mom had a couple go-to songs. I'm just curious what those were when she played
You
guitar.
know, they were like, I feel like they might have been like from her church or something. They were
Oh,
like
okay.
folky, or maybe they weren't church, but like they sounded like it to me. Like they were like folky, kind of like 60s. Like she loved Carole King and like stuff like
Okay.
that when she was like a little girl.
Uh-huh.
And so I think it was kind of that kind of vibe, like, yeah, 60s, 70s, like folky stuff.
Okay. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, she went to and played, yesterday or whatever. Like it
No,
wasn't like some
no,
go-to that you knew like right off the bat.
no. It was like, yeah, some random stuff.
That's cool though. So drums, did you have a band when you played drums?
So my first band ever was called Harvey's Daughter, and that was, yeah, I was the drummer for that band.
Okay. And you didn't write the
And
songs though, just drums?
no, I had a buddy, it was just like a bunch of us from high school. One of my other buddies was like kind of charismatic, singer guy, and he'd written some songs that we just played. And yeah, we only played, I want to say like one or two shows or something. It was just a little high school fun thing to do. But that led to forming Plain White Tees, because it was
Okay.
like, okay, we're doing these songs. Like I was starting to write because I had played drums and then I picked up guitar and kind of learned that. And so I would make these little 4-track demos in my basement, since I'd lay down the drums and then I'd go back and I'd lay down bass and I'd lay down one guitar and then I'd lay down a vocal and then I'd like pass the tapes out to my friends. Like I'd make little mixtapes of these songs that I was writing and hand them out to my friends like the next day at school, and just like, kind of already trying to market or so, promote, or like, oh, check out my
Yeah.
songs, whatever. And then from there, yeah, it just kind of naturally led to like, oh, well, like some of the guy, we all go home, after school to my house anyway and jam every day. Like I kind of took like my, the best guys and just said like, why don't we start playing these songs? And that was how the Play My Tees basically started.
Oh, wow. Okay. And that's cool that you were able to just record all the instruments and kind of make your own, like full
Yeah,
on. Like it wasn't like you just sat down with the guitar and played it. It was like, I'm going to lay down the drums. I'm going to do the
for sure.
guitars.
Yeah, our first couple like albums, like demos and stuff around Chicago, I played everything on too.
Really? And
Mhm.
they would, you just had your buddies would just play if you did live shows.
Exactly, pretty much, yeah.
Wow. And how
Yeah.
many of those songs from those original recordings ended up becoming Plain White T songs, if any?
I mean, they were all technically Plain White T's songs because, yeah, from the first, like when the band started in '97, we
Hmm.
had a tape that we made. It was like a full length cassette tape that we would sell at shows, and like we would get, used to get gigs around the city and stuff. And yeah, I played everything on that tape. And then we made a self-released album called Come On Over
Hmm.
in 2000, or maybe 1999, 2000. And that's kind of what got us to like get a manager and start really blowing up around Chicago. And that one, I didn't play everything, but I played the drums. And me and this other guy, guitar player in the band, we kind of tag teamed like the guitars and the bass and stuff. But yeah, I
Okay.
played drums on I actually played drums on our album Stop as well,
Oh,
which was
really?
our
Yeah, the
first big
first.
release on Fearless. Yeah.
Okay. And so
So yeah.
I've had Lauren Israel on my show, and I know that
Oh my
he
goodness
had a big
gracious.
part of that. I don't know what
Dude,
your guys' relationship with
I
him to this day is, but
I freaking love Lauren. I love Lauren. I know it's a bummer because he's got a very like, people either love that guy or hate that guy. He's very polarizing, I think, in the
uh-huh.
industry, but I always loved him, and I love he's got definitely a tough love vibe to him for sure when he's working with you, but I loved it. I appreciated it because, I wanted to be better. I wanted to, be pushed, and I
Mhm.
wanted to grow, you know.
Was
So
he
yeah,
the one
Lauren's
that
great.
was he the one that that found you guys? Was he the one managing you or no?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was when we put out Come On Over. We were kind of building up like in Chicago, we were starting to like sell out shows and stuff as a local band.
Mhm.
And I think somehow I think we had put a song on a comp CD or in some that was free in some surf magazine or something like that. Somehow he came across us and he like reached out to us through our website at the time. And he was working at Capitol Records at the time. So it was like, oh, this big shot guy from Capitol Records, LA, he wants to manage us. Cool. And then he flew out
Sure.
and we had like a meeting with him and we were all like, hell yeah, this guy's awesome. So we just went for it. And he really helped develop us from Come On Over to Stop is when he came in the picture. And so Stop was kind of the first thing. He really taught me a lot about just writing and just cutting the fat out of the songs and just really being, having focus within a song, with your writing and everything. Like every line has to kind of lead to the same place and,
Mhm.
just dumb things that seem so obvious, but they're not until someone kind of points it out to you or shows you the way. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, obviously helpful to have someone else go, "Oh, well, you could probably take this out or you could shorten this piece," or
Totally. Yeah.
and then somebody that had a track record. I mean, did you know of his work? I mean, he did the Bleed American album from Jimmy Eat World, so
So
that's
yeah, that was kind of going on around that same time actually.
yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so he had done Clarity. He had worked with them on Clarity.
Oh, I didn't know he did
Um
Clarity as well.
well he was he was at Capitol when they were on Capitol. And so I don't know that he had a big role, but I think he was one of the people to help them get them signed to Capitol. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
he was kind of, background behind the scenes on Clarity, and Clarity was one of our favorite albums back then.
Oh, it's a
So yeah,
great
that
album.
definitely was like, okay, this guy worked with Jimmy Eat World, like hell yeah. And then he's credited, I want to say as like executive producer or like executive A&R or something on Bleed American. Because yeah, Jimmy Eat World got dropped by Capitol, but they were bros with Lauren, and so he kind of stayed on and helped them, helped get the songs together for Bleed American with them.
Wow, yeah, because then they signed with DreamWorks, which then eventually just, you know,
Yeah,
became something else or whatever, but
right,
I
right.
remember when I talked to him because we talked about your band, obviously, but I don't recall us talking about when you all met or how you did, but, yeah, I remember him talking about Jimmy Eat World a bit too, but that's crazy, so he's the one that found you guys, it's still in Chicago, and then what, he flew you out to LA and you start, working on what became Stop, or
No, we did all that in Chicago,
oh, you
actually.
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So he
We
came out to
recorded that.
Chicago and helped you record Stop?
He would come out, yeah, and a lot of just back and forth sending demos, it was more yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah, he was really hands-on, but like even from afar, we'd be on the phone every single day. We'd be, dealing with him, making sure things were feeling good and feeling right. And then on All That We Needed, which was the next album, which is where we really started picking up steam. That was the
Yeah.
first album that had Delilah on it.
Mhm.
That album with him, we did that one in LA. So we were like literally like sleeping on his floor, going to the studio every day, coming back. That was a crazy time.
Yeah, because you had signed with Fearless, right? And
Mhm.
originally with Stop, and now you're
Yeah, so
back on
we
Fearless, which is Awesome.
So we made Stop on our own with Lauren and with a
Uh-huh.
buddy of our 16-year-old friend actually like engineered that album, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, like literally like in his basement, we tracked Stop. And then that Fearless picked up Stop. So they signed us because of Stop and then they re-released Stop.
Got it.
And then we toured on that for a couple years, yeah, and then we put out All That We Needed on Fearless as well. And then that album did so well on Fearless that they upstreamed us to Hollywood Records.
Hmm.
So then our next three albums came out on Hollywood, and then Hollywood dropped us, and yeah, we kind of put out we had an album kind of half done with Hollywood that we finished up and put out on our own called American Nights
Yeah,
in
which is an awesome
2000.
record.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
I
want to
was,
talk to you about that album for sure because I love the
hell yeah.
video. That, I think your son
Oh,
is he's
that's
the
the
main character,
freaking,
right?
yeah, that's the coolest, one of the coolest moments of the band. That little like that time in the career where we were really like on our own after being on a major label. And yeah, that video with my son, he was freaking 5 years old and he's just like a little
Was he really?
superstar. Yeah,
Oh my
crazy.
gosh. I love when
Yeah.
he like winks to the
Mhm.
girl. Like I was like, that was my favorite part of the video. I was
Yeah.
dying.
And the little girl in the video is probably like 8 or something. She's like a full
What,
head
yeah.
taller than him and stuff.
They're
Yeah.
like
So
walking, holding hands. Yeah,
yeah,
she's like quite a
so
bit
funny,
taller
dude.
than him.
So funny.
Oh wow.
But yeah, and then we came back to Fearless for our 2018 album Parallel Universe, and then
Uh-huh.
now this one. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So with you just did the one on Fearless or two on Fearless, it sounds like, and
Yeah,
then with all that I needed, and then when Hollywood put out Every Second Counts, that's when
exactly.
you put Delilah back onto that record too, right? There, you just added
So
like a string section and a little bit more production
yeah,
to it.
so we actually know we did the string section while we were still on Fearless, and there was a Hey There Delilah EP on Fearless that
Oh, I didn't
had
know
the
that.
string, like the radio version, if you will. And we actually made the video on Fearless. Everything about that song was done with Fearless. And then because that Fearless, here's the crazy thing, like back in the day, the same exact song, same exact video, Fearless Records could get it to like sell 80,000 records, which was huge for us
Oh
back
yeah.
in the day. But the same exact song and video on a major label is, up to 1 billion streams almost, and is actually sold like 5 million single, plus. So funny that extra push that the major had, really was able to blow the song up more than Fearless could with the exact same song. But because of that, I mean, Fearless was still a really like an indie label back then.
Oh,
So
and they had
like I
like some
said,
of the best bands. I mean, Fearless, it was like Fearless, Vagrant,
oh yeah,
Victory, which yeah.
yeah,
And like those Drive Through, like those are all the bands. Like you'd see a band get signed to Fearless. It was like, oh, who is this band? And it was you'd
totally.
go to check them out just because they were signed to the label.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of that, like, not like it wasn't our doing, but like I think the synergy with us and Fearless with that album really kind of propelled both of us to really, do great
Mhm.
things. So yeah, kind of coming back to Fearless, they're a much bigger label now. They have so much more connections. They've grown so much. So it's kind of just the perfect, like, I don't know, it's a nice full circle, moment for us to come back to Fearless and kind of back to our roots kind of a thing.
Yeah, it must have been. I mean, was Delilah a massive hit on Fearless, or it didn't become like radio hit until
No,
later?
it was a massive like underground indie hit on
Right.
Fearless,
Okay. So
Yeah,
once you
like
signed to Hollywood, they're the ones that got it on
so
the radio and everything else.
once we signed to Hollywood, Delilah was not on the album because it was an old song.
Right.
So we made Every Second Counts. We put out Every Second Counts, 12
Hmm.
song album, and Hate was the first single. Hate is a strong word, but I
Yeah,
really,
great
really, really
song.
don't like you. And that did really well on alternative radio. That was like a top 20 song on alternative radio. And then it was like time for single number two. And the head of the label, Bob Cavallo, he came out to one of our shows as we were like blowing up with Hate on the radio. And we played Hate. The whole crowd's singing along, going crazy. It's a a pseudo hit right now on the radio. Cool.
Oh yeah.
And then 2 songs later, we play Hey There Delilah, and the crowd is even crazier and louder and singing every word. And so the head of the label, happens to be there for it. He turns to the A&R guy and he's like, "What the hell song is this?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, this is on their last album." And it's like, "Oh, well, can we get it?" And it was like, "Yeah." And we because of the crowd, and because the song had already kind of had that grassroots fan base,
Uh-huh.
that was like showed him that this song should be the next single. And we actually
Interesting.
fought it for about a day. We're like, "No way, that song's already out. It's already sold 80,000 copies, what are you talking about?" And then we thought about it and like, well, seems like a lot of people like that song, so maybe we should like let it be heard by millions of people, and maybe millions of people will like it. It was like, it didn't take us long to kind of think, but our first reaction was like, "No way, man, that song's old. That song was already out. Our fans already know that one. So
Right, which would be your
good.
instinct, right? I mean, you're
Totally. But
the people that
luckily
like
we
our
didn't
band, yeah.
luckily we didn't get in our own way with that one, and we stepped out and we let the label do their thing. And sure enough, they were right. Good. So thank you,
Right.
Bob Cavallo. Thank you for being a good label head.
Yeah,
He knew
I
what he
was in
was doing.
college when that came out, and I remember that was everywhere at the time. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing that song.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So
Well,
that
we
must have been a
could
trip for
because we
you.
were too busy. We were too busy playing it everywhere, every day. Like we kind of missed that. Like you couldn't escape the song because we were. I mean, I've never worked so hard in my life. You'd think being in a band, like the days of like sleeping in the van and like crashing on people's couches, and driving yourself, eating frickin' Taco Bell, and getting to the gig. You think those are like the hard days.
Hmm.
But man, I'm telling you that when Delilah was popping, it was like we didn't sleep. It was like we were like on autopilot, like freaking 20-hour days of like, play it, go to this radio station, and you got to be funny. You got to
Got
look
to be
good. You got to
on,
play
right?
good. Yep. You got to play the song 5 times a day at 5 different radio stations, because the pop station's playing it, the freaking alternative station's playing it, the hot AC station's gonna start playing it, and we need to get them on board. And then you go to the sound check party that another radio station is throwing, and then you got to play your actual show. And then it's like we would fly a red-eye flight, try to sleep on the plane, land, and get picked up by the radio rep in the next city and go do the whole thing again for like 3 or 4 months straight, like blowing up the song. And I definitely don't regret it, but it's crazy that like, yeah, that was the hardest thing we've ever done, is have a hit.
Oh
Not
yeah.
like making the hit, not like working, building the hit, but like actually when the song was a hit, we didn't get to enjoy that at all until, I mean, I'm still enjoying it. Obviously it's done well for us. So I'm super grateful. But yeah, it was crazy. It was a lot of
Yeah.
work.
I
We
mean,
the
I
only
go
the
ahead.
only way we would know like that it was what was happening was just to all of our friends, like, "Oh dude, I heard the song at freaking the airport, or I heard the song at Chipotle," or it was like that was the fun of, it was like the friends and family like kind of cheering us on from the sidelines and kind of letting us know how things are doing. But yeah, other than that, we were just like blinders on, just constantly going. Like we
Right.
literally got told our song was number one on the radio, like a number one on Billboard or whatever,
Yeah.
like right before like we had to go on stage and play a show. So it was like, "You guys, you're number one." Like, "Oh, cheers." We took like a picture, and it was like, "Okay, on stage and then play a show." It was just constant, man. It was crazy. No
Wow.
time to celebrate until when we went to the Grammys finally, which was the February of the following year. This Delilah was like really big. That was like the summer of
Mhm.
2007 when we were going crazy. And then yeah, not until pretty much February of 2008, like 6 months later, that we actually got to look at each other and be like, "Holy shit, we're at the fucking Grammys right now." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like like that's when it all kind of finally sunk in, like, damn, this is like we did it. Like we had this, it was a good moment that we all could kind of congratulate each other, like, dude, holy shit,
Yeah, we're
pretty
here.
cool.
Like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was on the radio for a lot of years, like in San Diego, and we played you guys on 91X a million times, and I was on Live 105 in San Francisco. We played you a million times. But
Oh yeah.
I remember bands coming in, on that, like, okay, we got a single, and the radio rep would drive them and they'd do an interview, and then
Oh yeah.
you'd go in the conference room, and you guys, you'd have to sit there and play to the people at the station. Maybe they'd have like some winners come, and like
Oh yeah.
I would, I saw so many bands have to do that grind, and it's like you said, I mean, that's when, yeah, it's a lot of work, obviously, prior to that, but when you get to that level, it's like nonstop. Like you just see it in the band's eyes. They're like, we love this, but we can't even really enjoy it at this moment because it's just like go, 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 go.
Totally. And like literally, I'm not even exaggerating, at least 3 of those every single day.
Oh yeah, because
So
there's
like,
like 2 alternative stations in the market. You have
yeah,
like 3 pop stations you have to go
yeah.
to. Oh
But I mean,
man.
it worked obviously because these stations, whatever, we greased the palm or whatever you call, it's like we did the work so that they played the song more and they pushed it up and it was like Rihanna Umbrella was number 1 and we knocked her off number 1. That's pretty crazy.
No, that's amazing. That's
And there's some fun fact that like I think for the first time, like I don't know, the first time in year it was might have been the first time ever, but like definitely the first time in a long time. The song I'm pretty sure was came into the top 10, and 1 week at a time it was like 10. The next week it was number 9. The next week it was number 8. The next week, like, it went
oh,
all the way every week. It went up 1 notch all the way to number 1. Like
that's
I think
cool.
that's, yeah, I there's some statistic, like, about that, like first time in 25 years that's or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Kind of
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah, to see it grow like that. I mean, then
Yeah,
make it
so
a number
every week
one.
we were all like, holy shit, it's like still
We're at
going. We're
number 8.
still,
Oh, we're
yeah.
at 7.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
amazing.
cool.
Um, just I'm just curious on like having your mom's a guitar player, your dad's a drummer, like seeing you guys succeed in that way. Was that must have been a pretty special for them to see too.
I mean, for sure, I don't know that the fact that they played, like, again, there was like a hobby totally to them.
Okay.
So,
It
I
wasn't
don't
like,
think there
oh,
was,
my son's doing what we wanted to do
yeah,
growing
no, I
up.
don't think there
Okay.
was anything like that. I just think they were just generally proud because, just proud to see their son, accomplish something like that and be able to follow my dream and my, have the work ethic to never give up, have the, I guess, the talent to just, craft it and work hard on developing my talent and skill. And then, yeah, having the perseverance to just go and do it.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about maybe them being awesome parents, I guess, because it's like I feel like there's a big part of that. It's like whenever there's somebody who is, does something great, probably they had, either a real fucked up upbringing that they're trying to, kind of grow out of or escape from, or a really good one that they're, gave them that confidence or that, whatever it is.
Yeah, like
In my
encouragement or
case, it
support.
was a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Did you end
sure.
up going because Planway T started in high school? Did you guys go to college at all, or was it like you knew that
You
this
know,
band was going to be your thing?
so I did like a joke, like community. I was actually really like smart. Like I was an honor student my whole life. Like I never really had to try in school, and I
Uh-huh.
always got like straight A's. Pretty easy for me to just do school. So like for me, I kind of knew because the band had started like our senior year basically, like of high school. So by the time it was time for college, I went to a community college almost just like for like shit, like because I'm supposed to, kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I ended up going for 1 quarter and then peacing out.
Okay. Was the
And
band starting to take off at that point too? Were you like,
well,
okay,
we
this
didn't
is
start to
working?
take off, certainly not take off, but we were
Okay.
starting to, play local shows every weekend around Chicago in the suburbs and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just something where it was like, I can always go back to school if I want to, or if I fail, or if but like this is like what I want to do right now. This is what I believe in right now. I love doing music. So it was like I'm going to put everything into it. And I actually had a friend of mine who went to school. She went to U of I, University of Illinois, for 4 years, and then she did got her doctorate or something. So she went for like another 4 years to grad school or whatever.
Mhm.
And she was really smart like me. She was like one of my best friends in high school. And she would always kind of be like, because Plain White Tees, from graduating, it wasn't I graduated in 97, and it wasn't until 2007 that Delilah really blew up. That was the summer of
Yeah,
Delilah. So it was
like
like
10
10
years.
years. And so, she was in college, and she'd always ask me like, okay, so how long are you going to do this, music thing? And it's like, well, what do you mean? I'm going to do it till I make it. And she's like, well, what is that? And I'm like, well, listen, you're in school for another fucking 5 years still. So
Yeah.
I'll probably beat you to my career, I'll beat you there kind of thing. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
a fun, like if you think about to go to college, that's 4 years. So it's like, okay, let's see where I'm at in 4 years, where all my friends are kind of going to college, and I'll do the band thing. And it was like within 4 years, I mean, we were selling out venues in Chicago. We were like I said, hooked up with Lauren Israel. I think actually probably on Fearless Records by then, touring the country and stuff. So I was like, okay, this is working.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, another 4 years for people to go to grad school or whatever they did afterwards, or get their shitty jobs that they hate. My one friend,
Exactly.
one of my very best friends, he went to the same college actually for engineering, to get an engineering degree, which is it's the most disgusting. Like, he just hated his life. Like,
Yeah.
it's so much work. And before college, he in high school he worked. His dad like painted houses. Like, he had like a good, like a house painting business.
Yeah.
Kind of like handyman kind of thing. And so he'd work with his dad in high school, and then he went to U of I. Spent probably, God, who knows how much money, 100 grand plus,
Easily.
to get
Yeah.
this
Sure.
engineering degree. Hated his life for 4 years. Got this degree. Graduated, went back, and still to this day just works with his dad painting houses. And so yeah,
Oh man.
so
Just
it's
hoping
like
that loan gets
waste of
like
time.
forgiven.
Exactly.
Just waiting for the loan to get forgiven.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Meanwhile, we're out, kind of having fun and grinding it, and like I said, sleeping in a van, freaking making it from city to city, playing our music, and just really working it. And so it's kind of a parallel trajectory.
Yeah, 100%. Last time my brother-in-law interviewed you, I was just looking at the YouTube comments, and the all the comments were very, very nice. One person just said, no questions about 1, 2, 3, 4 Rhythm of Love. So I'm just
Ah,
curious. So
nice.
now I want to bring that up to you, because this person's maybe going to check this one out and be like, oh, well, he brought it up this time. So Big Bad
Nice.
World comes out. Were you, I mean, off Delilah having this massive thing, massive moment going into that album? Were you guys worried or concerned at all? Like, are we going to have another hit like this? Is this like the moment? Is this ending, or not
You
even
know,
thinking that way?
didn't really think about it that way. In hindsight, it's funny you use the word moment, because I really can see life as a series of moments, a lot more as I get older. Like that Delilah summer was, what a moment, like
Yeah.
crazy working. And then yeah, like 1, 2, 3, 4 was another big moment for us. But to answer your question, 1, 2, 3, 4 was kind of already written before we were even going into that cycle to record Big Bad World and stuff. So there was no real pressure.
Hmm.
Um, and not that we knew that that was going to be a hit, but we knew that it felt really good, and it felt strong the way Delilah felt to everybody. So yeah, so there was no pressure. But yeah, we went in, we recorded Big Bad World mostly in Malibu, California, which honestly was the first time, again, like we are talking about, the first time since you know, Delilah, basically since signing to Fearless, you know, in 2001, it probably would have been the
Mhm.
first time since then that we actually have like stopped, and like we were in Malibu, and it was like we basically like partied for like 3 weeks and then made an album in like 2 weeks, which
Oh
is
my
kind of
gosh.
funny. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, we were working every day, but it would be like, cool, let's get some burritos. Let's frickin', you know, let's have a pool party tonight. Cool, call some people. You know, it was like we were definitely, it was a much needed pause, and like a looseness, you know. It's like, oh yeah, remember when we used to just like put these songs together in like my basement, and we'd have buddies come over, and it was almost like a kind of a throwback to that, where it was like, okay, cool, we can just like have fun with this a little bit and put these songs together. And I definitely feel like that album, we were trying to kind of capture more of a live sound, and I definitely, looking back on it, it's definitely a lot more like a little bit like unpolished. And I don't know if that's, I don't necessarily love that. Like, I don't know. I think that we probably, it kind of sounds a little bit of like a slacker record. I think some of that comes through in a good way, but like also like that's literally where we were making that album.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to like listen to and be like, oh yeah, yeah, we probably should have overdubbed that guitar, but nah, it's fine, you
Yeah.
know.
There's something cool about like having the little grit to
I
the
agree.
record.
Like kind of like Weezer when they put out Pinkerton, that second album. It
Oh,
was
that's
like
my
had
favorite one of their
so much.
albums.
I know, me too. So it, we kind of were like, yeah, in the vein of that, thinking about that. But yeah, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, I remember hearing the mix, the first mix of that song. It was actually, I was at a radio station doing an interview, like, you know, doing press for the,
Uh-huh.
probably gearing up for the album, and they had sent it over, and we were able to sit in like a, I don't know, like a little side room or something, and listen to
Yeah.
it over the speakers at the station. And I remember being like, oh fuck, dude, this feels so good. Like it just was instantly like, yes, we did it. You know, it was like a good feeling for sure.
Where
So
were you
yeah,
at? Do you remember what station you were at?
I don't remember. No way.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I don't care. I was just curious if you're like, oh yeah, we're
I
in
feel
blah
like we
blah
were
blah
in
blah
like
blah.
San Diego. No, just kidding.
No, you're like, yeah, I think there was like a 9 in the number. I don't remember. uh, yeah, so I mean, to see your career continue, right? I mean, it was like, all right, we had Delilah. Now we put this next record out, and we did it in Malibu, and we have another, you know, massive song. Obviously, you had two big singles off that album
You
too.
know what's funny? I would love to just real quick with 1, 2, 3, 4.
No,
Fun
no, no, no,
fact.
no.
And I
Go
may have
for it.
talked about this before. A couple little things, and just this is just because somebody asked about 1, 2, 3, 4 on the in the comments, right? Ooh, did you do that?
No, but that was awesome. It was like perfect timing. How did that
Dude, what?
happen?
Honestly, I have no idea. I didn't
I
touch
don't
my
either. I'm
phone.
not touching anything. That
Really?
was no,
Holy
that was
shit.
crazy.
Did I like say something and it cued it? Or
I have no idea.
I don't
Wow,
know.
that was
Weird.
bizarre. I've
That was
never
really
seen that
freaking
happen
weird.
ever. Like, 'cause I don't have
Yeah.
any features
Yeah,
turned
we're
on.
not like, we're on freaking Zoom here. It's
Zoom.
not like yeah.
I thought you hit that. You're like, I got to tell you
No,
two
I
things
didn't
about you.
touch
I'm like,
anything.
it's just like balloons.
That was wild. Anyway, when I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, I actually thought it was gonna be like a punk song. It was
Huh.
like I was hearing like the, you know, there's only 1, 2, 3. Like I was picturing like those parts to be like a like chanted, like a gang vocal, instead of like it's only 1, 2, 2, you know.
Yeah.
But I had the idea in like the back of a cab, and then that night I tried to when I went to like flesh out the idea, we were sharing hotel rooms at that point, and our guitar player Dave was in the room with me, and he had like gone to sleep right away, or was like laying down, and so I kind of like snuck in the bathroom, was trying to be like real quiet with my guitar, and so I was kind of started humming it again, and I'm like, oh, maybe this kind of sounds nice as like an acoustic song. And so kind of funny that the circumstance of that night, him being in the room, made it kind of be stay stripped down like that as an acoustic song. So that's kind of a fun fact about the song. But then the video, so Hollywood Records wanted to try 1 2 3 4 as push it as a single, and we made a video for the song, and the song was kind of like doing okay at radio, but it wasn't like slamming, right? It was kind of going
Mhm.
slow, and we made a video for the song, and Hollywood did not like the video. And so they were not going to push a video, and they were going to stop pushing the song. Like they
Oh
were going to
wow.
let the song just kind of do its thing and fizzle out. And so me and a buddy of mine, Mike Venezia, who has gone on to make a few of our videos, but we got together in Chicago and we had this idea. We got to shoot something for this song because Hollywood's just gonna like let it die, and it's like we
Mhm.
got to save it. So we went out the next day and we shot the 1 2 3 4 video. It's like me kind of busking around the city of Chicago and just talking to people as they come up and
Yeah, and they got
getting
like the
their
captions on it and stuff,
Mhm.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
getting
remember the
their little
video.
little love stories, telling their stories, and so we made this video with $0 on
No
our
way.
own, and then brought it to the label, and the label was like, "Holy shit, we love this!" And then they kept pushing the song, and the song ended up becoming a top 5 single, and the video ended up being like the most played video on VH1 that year, or something like that.
Oh my
So,
gosh, on a 0
uh,
budget.
on a 0 budget and with the label like kind of about to like give up on the song, that turns out was indeed a hit. So it was like
Yeah.
yeah, definitely one of those moments of like yeah, you do need the labels help, but sometimes but you also got to remember like you got to fucking take charge and sometimes you got to yeah, step
Yeah,
up
if
to
you
the plate,
believe in it, you're like, "No, this
Yeah.
is a great song and it needs to be, we need to
Yeah.
do something for it."
And then Rhythm of Love, if you want to talk about that real
Yeah,
quick. So
yeah, that was
that's
the next
actually,
album, right?
yeah, then the next album, right. So Tim actually wrote that song. And so we were all like we were doing, I remember I was writing a ton. There was honestly almost like 50 songs I think written for Wonders of the Younger.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
because I had this idea in my mind to make an album called Wonders of the Younger, and I wanted it to be this very thematic kind of very adventurous roller coaster of an album that almost made you feel like you were watching Back to the Future or the Goonies or like a Cirque du Soleil show or something where it just had all these highs and lows and took you on a real journey.
Mhm.
And so I was in the writing process, I was definitely like, kind of going crazy with just random and song ideas and just really just throwing everything out there and seeing what kind of fit to tell the story. And Tim was writing as well at that time, and he had come up with a couple demos that were really cool. And I remember there was this one moment where we were all in the car together. It was me, Tim, and our A&R guy from Hollywood. And I was playing some demos, and then Tim played some demos, and he had just written Rhythm of Love. And I remember for the first time, I mean, I love all of Tim's songs. He's a great writer. But the
Mhm.
first time I heard Rhythm of Love, I was like, dude, fuck, you got to send me that. I love this song. It was like I wanted to just listen to it on my own, like
Oh
regardless
wow.
of like, should it make the album? Is it good enough? Oh, is that, I was just like, dude, I just want to listen to that again. I want to hear it. So that was kind of like an instant one for me. And when it came time to recording it, again, I had done all the lead vocals on all of our albums, obviously, and stuff
Mhm.
till up until that point. And because this album, well, because Tim sounded so awesome singing it on the demo that he made of Rhythm of Love, because there was talks of me singing it, in the studio.
Oh
But
yeah.
because the thought behind the album was like take you on this crazy adventure and this ride, it was almost like, well, shit, it kind of makes sense to have another singer. I don't know, it just like all kind of was perfect timing for that moment to happen. I had also just had my son when we were going into making that album, my first, my only, but it was like at that time it
Mhm.
was like new. I was a new
New
dad,
dad.
and so it was almost like cool. Well, yeah, Tim, like letting him kind of take the brunt of it for a second was kind of a perfect timing thing for me being able to be a dad and step into that role too. So So yeah, Rhythm of Love just worked like that. And Tim wrote it. Literally there was a girl that he was dating when we were working on the Big Bad World album. It was actually his, I think, first ever childhood crush when he was like 11 or something, and he had ran into her in Santa Barbara or something, reconnected, and they were dating a little bit while we were making Big Bad World in Malibu. So that worked out nice. We were out in California.
Yeah.
And they didn't really last, more than that summer, but it made him gave him the inspiration to write that song.
Yeah, you had a big record out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Does he sing body parts on that album too?
Exactly. Yep, those
Okay.
are his two on that
Yeah,
album.
so he comes, yeah, it has that kind of up and down, like you were saying, just like that
Totally.
vibe that you guys are going with.
Yep.
And we talked earlier about how American Nights was when you guys kind of left Hollywood, right? Left Hollywood Records at that point.
Yeah. And that album actually is probably that album's such a weird one for me. I love it, but it's definitely it's I don't know, maybe just because Tim has a lot more, he's singing a lot more on it. The tumultuous time we had at the label, it was like Hollywood Records, we had the best experience with them. But for some reason on that making that American Nights album on Hollywood, while we were still on Hollywood, that was like the first time we were ever kind of butting heads, and there was ever like like a rift. Is that the right word?
Yeah,
Like
like a rift between you
yeah.
guys.
Yeah, that was like the only time we ever really had an issue. I loved everything about Hollywood, all the people there. It was great. But yeah, American Nights, it was just weird moment for us all. And yeah, within the band and within the label, it was just a yeah, kind of like rough waters for a minute
Mhm.
there. So yeah, so listening back to that album, even though I do love it and I think the songs are great, and like we talked about, one of the coolest moments ever was making that American Nights video, and having my son, be the star of the video was so cool. Um, but yeah, it definitely feels like a bit of like a, and it was, to be fair, we made some of it on Hollywood, we made some of it on our own, so it was a little bit jumbled and pieced together.
Mhm.
But still, I think it still stands on its own as a great album. But being in the band, living through that time, probably one of my just least favorites, just maybe because of the experience around it. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was kind of a hard time. Like you're leaving a label that you guys loved, and it was just, yeah, a
Uh,
little bit, a little bit. You said, uh, I don't know what
yeah,
you used.
tumultuous, I think is a
Tumultuous.
good
Yeah, is what
word.
I was gonna go with. But
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. And then when you re-sign with Fearless for Parallel Universe, and then obviously this new album as well. Was that a pretty, I mean, going back to them, was that a pretty simple decision to make, or like how did you reconnect with Fearless?
absolutely. I mean, we had a lot of love there, obviously. Because like I was saying earlier, it's like we kind of both kind of owed each other a little bit of that. Like the synergy there in the early days was so great for both of us, just to really help build both of the band and the label. And so yeah, coming back just felt like it felt natural, kind of just like going home, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And yeah, we made the Parallel Universe album, and it was, I freaking love that album, but it definitely was us, kind of pushing our boundaries a little bit, trying to make like step into uncharted territory for us.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I freaking love the album. I love the songs, but it's a little bit dark and a little bit like I don't know. It doesn't necessarily, it feels like the Plain White Tees. That's the whole reason we called it Parallel Universe, because it was like the tease, but like if things had gone super differently in life or in the world, like that's what the tease would sound like, kind of
Yeah, like a
in a
darker
parallel
version of it.
universe. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
No, that's
Yep.
interesting that you say that because it is yeah, it's definitely a darker record. I mean, you're Bury Me, like just like
Sure.
the songs on the album, you're like, oh, okay. Like now it makes sense why you would have called it Parallel Universe.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And again, it's like I love the album, but But now, as we are moving past the pandemic and into this new chapter of Plain White Tees, I feel like we kind of talked about earlier, really like looking at the whole career, looking at the discography, and just really figuring out what is it about us that makes us the Plain White Tees. It's like, I don't know. I don't know why we've never really thought of doing that in the past. Our past albums were just kind of like where we were at the moment and just feeling, just kind of like going with our guts and our, flowing. Like I was kind of like, for some reason in 2017, when we were writing Parallel Universe, it was a little bit darker of a time, even though you'd think through the pandemic that was, we didn't know what we were, what we
About to
were.
hit.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think through the pandemic, that was like a reset button for everything.
Mhm.
It was like, okay, you know what? Like, we're lucky to be here. We're lucky to be able to go play shows again. Like for a minute there, when the pandemic first started, it was like, man, are live shows even going to be a thing anymore? It was like, are we ever going to be on stage again? It's going to be and it was, a good year and a half or so before we could even, get on a stage. And I remember one of the first shows playing after pandemic, there was like a plexiglass, like shield kind of thing between the stage and the audience, and everybody had masks on in the crowd, and it was weird, man. But it was like you felt great to be able to like to come out on the other end of it, and so definitely it reinvigorated the band, and just that sense of hope, and just everything that I think the band stood for, especially in the earlier days. There's still some of that in Parallel Universe and everything,
Mhm.
but like just again, Parallel got a little bit dark. And this album I think is kind of coming out, like I said, the other side of all of that. It's kind of fun if you listen to the discography, that it does feel like you can kind of see point A and point B, and you know what I mean? It's like it
Mhm.
is kind of a cool ride through the whole thing, but yeah, I'm really excited about this album, and it feels the most authentically Plain White Tees album that we've ever made.
Yeah, and it sounded like when we were talking about it earlier, you went into it looking at the discography going, "Okay, what is the," not saying that you're gonna recreate it like we said earlier, but it was like it was more intentional, like, "We want this to be a Plain White T's record." Like, what would that be? What would that look like?
Exactly. And again, it's like, yeah, because we made Wonders of the Younger, we made Parallel Universe. These were even American Nights, where it sounds a little bit more organic, but it still was, I don't know, it wasn't the same. It was just the process this time was just so easy, so smooth, and yeah, just so, I don't know. Yeah, easy is, I think, really the word. It was like we like it once we kind of figured out, like, oh yeah, let's make a straight up Plain White Tees album. Like, keep it kind of mostly acoustic. Like you said, there's still a lot of up tempo songs, but
Mhm.
everything's kind of anchored around like an acoustic riff or something. Make sure the lyrics are all very honest, very vulnerable. Keep the production raw and kind of rough around the edges, but it doesn't sound like Big Bad World raw. It sounds a little bit more like raw with energy still, or something. It has definitely like a funness to it, and an energy to it that I think, I don't know that we've ever had. Even like our slower songs, like LOVE, it has such a bounce and a playfulness, like that it doesn't feel like it's just an acoustic chill song.
Yeah. And I love the lyrics too that I mean, the lyrics in the album are great, but it's the references you make, especially in LOVE, I'm like, "Oh, that's brilliant."
Yeah, I love that line. If Dolly painted you, you'd be surreal. I love
Yeah,
that.
that was gonna say, that was my favorite one where you talk about
Oh,
Dolly. I was
nice.
like,
Hell
"Damn, like,
yeah.
that was really great, really,
Hell
really creative."
nice.
Are you still doing, I know you had a couple other projects going on, maybe more so during the pandemic, and then, you have your label. Is that all you
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
doing
That's still
everything?
going. Actually, the label, it's funny because it's been kind of a slow year for the label, but in 2024, I'm pretty sure we're going to release at least two to three full albums next year with three of our artists. So it's going to be a busy year for the label next year. Side projects, because of I've been so involved with the Tease album for this last year and a half, been kind of on hold. I know I'm jonesing so bad to like make a new Million Miler album. That's like my 80s themed synth pop,
Yeah.
solo project. I love that project and that album that I made. But yeah, haven't done that in a minute just because it's been
Yeah. All plain white tees.
in Tease Town for sure.
Yeah.
There's actually a TLB, my side project I play drums for.
Yeah.
We're actually about to release a Christmas song, so that's fun.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So that's been, since the Tease album has been done for a couple months, I've been able to kind of, like do some other things and think about anything outside the Tease for a minute. Yeah.
That's rad. Yeah, I had Fairview on my show before
Oh,
too. And
hell
I think
yeah.
they're signed to your label, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's one of we're almost ready to finish up a full album with them.
Wow, that's cool. That's really
So yeah,
cool.
in between, I've been kind of doing all the
You're all over
some of the other stuff behind the scenes. Yeah. Yeah.
What about a tour for Plain White Tees for this album? Have you haven't
I
announced one
believe
yet, or have you?
we have not. I believe I don't. When are you going to air this? Do you know?
I was gonna air it around the time the album comes out, but we could push it.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure we're announcing like a week before the album. I'm pretty sure we're announcing we're gonna do like a US like a winter tour January, February. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, so coming up real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm in Nashville now. You coming here?
Dude, I'm in Nashville right now.
Are you really?
I am.
I thought you lived in Chicago.
No
way.
I moved to Nashville.
No way.
Yeah.
Well,
I still have the Chicago place, but yeah, I'm spending most of my time here.
Well, after once I stop this recording, I'm curious to see where you're at.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this, man. This has been such a fun conversation. I'm so excited that I had a chance to talk to you.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. And yeah, glad you love the album. I mean, I really do feel like when people hear this, it's gonna feel fresh. It's gonna feel fun. It's gonna feel like Plain White Tees in all the best ways, I think. So yeah.
That's awesome. So with a tour though, you just know you're doing US. You said
we
UK.
are coming to Nashville. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a Nashville date. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, again, Tom, thank you so much. I have one more quick question for you. If you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Well, like I kind of said with my backstory, it's like you just kind of got to do it. It's like I know that sounds so stupid and so cliche, but there's never anybody that like gives you permission or like, says, oh, here's how you do it. Just do this and you'll be fine. You'll make it. It's like there's just it's a lot of work and a lot of, dedication, but you just got to do it. And you know what I always tell people, it's like, even if you try and you like don't quite fail or you don't quite make it, exactly in the path you want to make it, along the way, you're going to like find a different path, or it's going to lead you to something that is like that perfect thing for you or whatever. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like so many people that I know, like, dude, half the producers and the like writers that are killing it and making so much money and having so much success in the music business right now are guys that like were in bands when we started touring that we would tour with, that their band never made it, but now they're freaking writing songs for Dua Lipa and shit, so right. It's like you're gonna, you never know what the end is gonna be, but as long as you kind of take that path and follow your heart and your dream, you're gonna end up somewhere that's gonna be, perfect for you, Bringing it backward.